back onto the screen. Hi, there we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Immigrant Mom show. It's a different day. It's not Thursday, it's Saturday, but we thought we could have a roundtable discussion today. And I am so glad that you are joining. You know the drill. Once you join, let me know where you're watching from. Say hi. I would love to acknowledge you. I would love to give you a shout out for joining. I would not know until you put a comment in the comment section. So go ahead and let me know that you are here. We're going to give it about 2 minutes. We have so much to talk about. So it's only 2 minutes to, share and, invite other people. If you're a mom, you know a mom, you have sisters, aunties. Let's talk about the rod or the child. We're all talking about disciplining when it comes to our children. Hello, Denise. I know you're here. Definitely one of our speakers. So go ahead and share, and we'll get started in a few minutes. Hi, Belinda. Thank you for joining. We're giving it a few minutes for everybody to join, and then we will get started. I have this song that I love. Hope you'd enjoy it too. It's about the strength of a woman. Let us, hey, the woman is strong. We have to acknowledge her strength. Definitely. Let's go ahead and share so we can get started. I will share on my page as well.
We don't know how she always finds a way. The mystery of a woman, a savior in a time of need. The bravery of a woman in your time of need. She does the deed, the magic of a woman.
Hi, Gwen.
Woman,
Hi, Erica.
woman,
Belinda, thank you all for
a
joining.
warrior is a
Please
woman.
share so more people can join us.
Woman, a savior is a woman. Woman, a warrior is a woman.
Hi, Nelma. Thank you for joining.
A savior is a woman. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hi, Collins. Thank you for joining.
When a man will cry, a woman smiles. Her shoes have walked 1,000 miles. The sticks of stone can break her bones. She welcomes all her friends and foes. When her spirit's down, she has no time to frown. A warrior is a woman. Woman. A warrior is a woman. Woman, a savior is a woman.
Like, if you can pay attention to the words of this song, like, think about it. The fact that we are women and things that we put up on a daily that looks so easy, but the strength in the woman is something that I feel like we can celebrate every day. Every day. Thank you all for joining. We're gonna get started in a few minutes.
Style is one of a kind. Her womanhood and her motherhood are her strength and pride. A warmth and grace she cannot hide. The wonders of a woman. A warrior is a woman. A savior is a woman. A warrior is a woman.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this Beautiful Saturday. You could have been doing a couple things, running your errands, but definitely I appreciate your presence with us. For those who are joining for the first time, hi, my name is Extel Mbaacha. I am the founder of the Immigrant Mom. The Immigrant Mom is an organization that started almost 3 years ago when I became a mom. I have been an immigrant for many years, about maybe 13, first in South Korea and then in the United States, where I have been for about 10 years now. And having children just introduced me to a whole new level of, what I didn't know, because I did not grow up in this country, the things about parenting that I, don't know for the mere fact that I'm in a different country. And because of my experience, I was able to, have a vision of mothers coming together, of those who probably have had experiences and can turn around and teach someone else who is going through or who will be going through the same pace. Today, we're going to talk about discipline. This is a very, very touchy subject because people tend to feel like others want to tell them what to do. But here is my disclaimer from the Immigrant Mom that we're not an organization teaching you how to parent. We're going to trust and believe that you're going to be in tune with your own intuition on how to parent. But we're going to be telling our stories through an angle of what worked for us and what we believe worked for us because of, the circumstance we were in. We'll share our stories, we'll talk about best practices, but the ultimate decision will be yours as to what would work perfectly for your children. Today, we're talking about the rod or the child. Should you hit or should you not hit? Should you spank or not spank? Are you yelling or not yelling? We're just talking with moms who are going to share from their heart what it's been like. And we have a guest who is not a mom yet, but who has worked with children, and she'll be telling us from the auntie's perspective. With that said, I'm going to be bringing on all our guests live, and we will get this discussion started. If you have not shared, please go ahead and share, because there might be a woman who is beating herself down about her discipline strategies. There might be somebody who has come to the end of herself about what to do in disciplining her children or just making sure they're well behaved. And just being a part of this discussion today, she could learn something. So let me bring on our guest and we'll get started. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi, Tai. Hi, Denise. Hi, Winnie. Thank you all so much for taking your time to want to share with the Immigrant Mom community about this topic. So I'm going to start with Denise and go all around that you can introduce yourself and just let us know maybe a fun fact about you. Let's break the ice. We don't want any tension. We're here to have an easy breezy discussion. This is a round table, no nerves, nothing. We need the nerves
Mm.
gone so we can be open, right? So Denise, please go ahead and introduce.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Akaragwe. And what can I say about myself? I'm just a girl, a scrum master, and I'm into several different things, but I'll just leave it at that. And also, I've been an immigrant for over 5 years. First, I was in Europe, Belgium, and now I'm here in the United States.
Right.
And I enjoy what the immigrant mom is doing. I'm not a mother yet, but I have worked with kids. Being the first grandchild with a whole gap between myself and other grandchildren and my siblings, I had no choice but to take care of them. And
Awesome.
that's where my experience comes from, actually.
I always say to my siblings that I feel so bad in quotes for my daughter who is the first grandchild from, my own side, because she's going to be responsible to take care of, all her cousins that will be coming after her. So her responsibility is huge. Thank you, Denise, for joining us. Hi, Ty. Can you please introduce yourself and let the audience know who you are?
Yeah, I'm Tai Addison. I am a mother of three young children. You can probably see behind me their little artwork. They got stickers all over my walls all the time. I am a business owner, an entrepreneur, and I work from home. Primarily, I homeschool my children. Um,
I am second generation immigrant. So my mother actually immigrated to the United States right before I was born, but I was raised mostly as an expat. So I think I bring that perspective of being, family, an immigrant family, also being raised overseas and now finally landing in my country of origin, which is the United States. And so that's what I bring to the table.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are definitely intrigued and want to know from your perspective as the child of the immigrant. Like, you are the reason why we immigrant moms will come together. So we're giving like people like you the best that we can. So I mean, I'm really curious to know what you would have to say about discipline about this subject. So we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Hi, Winnie. Can you hear me? I think Winnie is having some connection um, problems, but let's see if
I
we
can
can get
barely
her.
hear you. You have to give me a minute.
Sure, we can give you a minute. That's okay.
Can you hear
We can.
me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, give me a minute. So no, I hear you and then I don't hear you anymore. So I want to
Okay.
move. I think I'm going to move this desktop closer.
All right. That's fine. I can take you off this
Just
the
continue.
live
Give me a
show so
minute. I'll
that
be
you
back.
can once you're ready, just come back on. All right. Let me just let her know that it's okay. All right. Awesome. Since Winnie is dialing in from, I believe, Switzerland. Are you back? And so I think there are some tech issues, but we'll carry on. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining. Let's get into the discussion. Let's just start. What do you believe? Or, what's your belief about discipline? Let's just get that elephant out of the room. What do you think about discipline? The rod or not the rod, yelling or not yelling? Should you discipline your children at all, or should you let them just be? Kai, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I think I have a unique perspective on that, and I don't have any hard, fast rules. I definitely lean towards discipline and
Yeah.
very firm discipline because I think that it will eventually allow my children to grow into what they should be, which is productive citizens. However, I'm more lenient on the side of what discipline to use. Each one of my children have a different character, and I
Mm.
discipline them each differently, especially as they're growing. Mines are still young. They're all in grade school. They're all very young children, and so it might change. And I'm fluid enough to be able to change. I don't like yelling. I don't like violence. I have used both of them
Mm,
with varying levels of success.
yeah.
And so I'm kind of leaning on the side of not using it as frequently and using other tools and skills, but I'm not opposed to using it either.
Right. I'm glad that you mentioned that because we really want to know what happened. You said you have used those tools and then you decided not to use. But one thing that I have just picked out of what you said here and now is each child is different. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know whether, every mom knows that or whether you just think that one disciplining strategy will work for all your children. But just for the few years that I have been a mom, I'm slowly recognizing that every child would have a different strategy. But let me ask you a question right back.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be using a different strategy for each child, how do you prevent one child from thinking that they're overly disciplined or there is discrimination or one child is being favored over the other?
I think it's for me, it's a lot of communication. It's really speaking to my children and letting them know so that I'm preemptive, where I don't wait for them to come to me and say, I feel like I'm being over disciplined or I feel like I'm being singled out. I start that conversation, that dialogue with them saying, you are not being singled out. The reason this is happening is because of, and so I try to open that dialogue. Some of them are too young to understand that, but I'm hoping subconsciously at least gets in their heart and their spirit so that when that question comes up, it's already been answered and the line of communication's been opened.
Awesome. Well, to our guests, our audience, if you have a question, please leave your question in the chat box because we'll be pulling questions from time to time to ask. If you have anything you are dealing with that you feel comfortable asking this panelist to give you their opinion on your situation, this is the place and now. Hi, Denise.
Hi.
So, from your experience as the first grandchild, watching your cousins, watching these little kids, what do you think? Should they be disciplined? Should they not be disciplined? What is discipline for you? What is okay and what is not?
Well, I think the first point I made, to me, that's the foundation. You need to know each child, and that's where African parents are falling short because they don't they're so engulfed in making their children what they want them to be that they forget that that child is an individual altogether on their own, irrespective irrespective of the fact that you brought them to this world. They have their own individuality, they have their own purpose. You're just a channel for a destiny to come here. So the first thing that is imperative is that you know each child, you know what is going to work for them as discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is going to work for a, you can tell your girl child, you know what, it's going to be time out if you don't do this, but you have to whoop the boy child. Or that's just an example, not necessarily the case, but it's an example. So you need to know what suffices as discipline for each child. There's a child who is obedient and quick to take instructions. There's a child who needs a whooping. And
Mm.
it's as simple as that. You need to know each child, know what works for them as discipline, because the whole essence of discipline, I think, is to send a message through that no, this is unacceptable, or this is what it needs to be done. And if this is not done, this is the consequence of not doing this thing. So you need to pay attention to the fact that your message is going through, not just
So,
punishing a child for nothing.
right. So,
Yeah,
if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying in the event that you're a mom tomorrow, you are going to discipline. You're just going to have different strategies for each of the kids.
exactly.
Awesome. All right. I think we have Winnie back. Hi, Winnie. Can
Hi,
you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you clearly now. Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
so sorry
I
about
No, no worries. That's okay. We understand. So we're just going into our intros and our first question. Please just introduce yourself and tell us whether or not you believe in discipline.
Okay, I'm Winnie McBelly. I live in Switzerland, and of course, I believe in discipline. Yeah, I have two kids. I have to discipline them, of course.
We didn't catch the ages of the kids we're talking about. Let's just put everything in perspective because disciplining is different for teenagers and younger kids. How old are each of yours kids?
My son is 5, and my daughter is 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
My son is 9. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter.
All right. We would definitely love to have someone with teenagers because that's a whole different ball game on another day. So if there's any
Right.
mom on here, I know my sister Gwen has a teenager. We would really love your insight on what it is like to discipline a teenager, too much or too less, and all of that. So our next question, we have established the base about discipline. Let's get personal, right? I really want us to get personal. What was a tough situation that you had to face as a mom when you had to discipline on the subject of discipline? Just take us through a story. What was a tough decision or a tough situation you had to face? Winnie, you can start.
I always battle with whether I should beat my children or not, whether I should hit
Hmm.
them or not. I mean, not
Hmm.
hit them to hurt them, but just a little spank.
Hmm.
And it's because my mom never ever laid a hand on me. Never.
We lost you there for a second. We lost you for a good 2, 3 seconds. Can you? You said your mom never hit you.
Yeah, she never hit me, but she could discipline me. She still disciplined me. So there are moments where I have to call her and I'll explain a situation to her and I'll ask her what to do because I really don't want to hit my kids, but there are times where I just lose my mind. And to me, that seems like the only solution,
Hmm.
you know. But
Right,
she suggested, yeah, she's given me many suggestions like the timeouts. But after sometimes these children just it seems they get used to that and you
right,
have to try something new.
right,
So yeah, it's just a learning process.
right. And we're going to pause right there because there's so much that you have shared that we're going to come back to. Because one of the questions I'm going to ask today is the difference between your parenting style and the way you were parented. But we'll get back to it.
Okay.
And thank you for sharing. Ty, what was a difficult situation that you had to face as a mom?
Yeah, it's ongoing, honestly. Especially my son, as he gets older, he leans towards deceitfulness, so lying or hiding. And I'm very value driven and very character based with my children. And so
Hmm.
seeing a negative character developing them is concerning.
Hmm.
And then finding discipline that actually works to correct that because, I've tried this talking. I have tried taking away every electronic device that he has, every privilege
Hmm.
that he has, and it still seems to be an ongoing thing. And so, just trying to find creative ways to not necessarily punish, but I'm really trying to teach a different type of character and
Hmm.
how to do that without making his life miserable
Hmm.
and still not allowing that character to continue. So I'm still in the process of that, honestly. It's an
Hmm.
ongoing thing.
Right. If there's anybody who's watching us now that has faced a situation like that, where you found that your child was tilting more towards concealing the truth or telling lies or taking things that were not given them, what strategy worked for you? Because children, that's a phase. Let me put it out there. That's a phase that nearly every child will go through. Some do, some don't. But for those that went through, how did you help your child own the truth, speak the truth? What was your strategy? Denise, this question is for you. What did you see as a difficult question, as a difficult situation when it came to disciplining your the kids that you took care of?
It's even more challenging when you're not the biological parent of a child.
Yes.
You have to be extra careful the way you try to discipline another person's child. I
Yeah.
don't care if you're blood related or anything, but it just reads differently. And my difficulty was in the fact that you set ground rules for the child. You take care of the child like all day. You spend more time with the kids than their parents ever will.
Hmm.
But when their parents come in the picture, like if I say your bedtime is 8 p.m. and that's that, they follow that. But the
Hmm.
moment their parents are home at 8 p.m., they feel like, oh, it's just for today, just let them be. So that's the challenge because you're registering in the mind of that child that whoever is making rules for the child don't love them as much.
Hmm.
So it's a very delicate thing when somebody else is trying to help your child grow in the proper way,
Hmm.
and then you're not following that because they feel like, oh, once my parent is home, I can do whatever.
Hmm.
But you're just sending me to bed at 8 p.m. because my parents are not home.
Hmm.
Because like it or not, they know the difference.
Hmm. Hmm.
No matter
Right.
how much love you give them, they know the difference. And
Right.
if parents enable some kind of laxity, and I always get to hear this part like, oh, you do this because you haven't had your child, you haven't. It hits differently when it's your biological child. It's hard to do this or that because it's your biological child. You can
Hmm.
easily be stern on the child because it's not your biology. Even the parents think that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's so hard to try to make the child know the difference between loving the child and nudging them in the right direction. For me, it's complicated where I stand right now because I'm not
Yeah,
an actual mom.
yeah.
So I cannot really tell you like my challenge is valid or not because it's based on another person's assessment who happens to be higher than I am when it comes to parenting that child. So I just keep it low and I try to nudge them a little bit with the love, of course. And
Right.
for some reason, they're still drawn to me and they still come to me. But I'm just worried about the fact that there is the lack of that consistency when it comes to setting those ground rules and
Mhm.
setting standards for discipline. If your
Right.
parents have to do it differently, and I'm doing you're breaking the consistency when it comes to what registers in the mind of that child.
Right.
So for me, that has been an all-time difficulty.
Right.
Maybe when I
And I
get kids, I'm gonna know what hits differently, what makes it harder. But for me, rules are rules.
I'm gonna tell you this, right? And as you move forward, you will experience it. Winnie, I'll come to you soon. The challenge, even when you have your kids, you're going to wonder, am I doing too much or am I doing too small? Just because you're aunt and then you become mom, we're always still in that bucket of, am I doing too much? Am I doing too small? Winnie, you're gonna add something to what Denise said.
Yes, I was. I was going to say, as parents, we worry a lot about disciplining our children, but I think there's something we miss out, which Denise mentioned. We as parents, are we disciplined? Because
Mm,
Right.
if you smile at disobedience, then you're not helping the child. If, for example, if my son is what does he do? um if he's shooting his sister with a pair of shoes and I'm smiling and I say something like, don't do that, just casually, or that tone, he's not going to take me seriously. And when
mm-hmm,
I say that, I just continue what I'm doing, and he's still shooting his sister, trying to hurt
mm-hmm,
her. That, you cannot expect that child to be disciplined, because you as a parent, in that instance, you are not disciplined. You're smiling
mm-hmm.
at disobedience. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
That's so, oh man, I really wish that a lot of people could be on here because striking the balance on discipline is really at the core of everything we're talking about here and today. Because there's the extreme of they don't smile at anything, they whip and whoop and tie and bit and punch all the way. And then there are people who are like, oh, I really cannot do anything because if I whip and whoop and punch and yell, then they are going to be, dysfunctional human beings. So you hear a lot of people within our space saying, what's the balance? The balance. Can someone define to me the balance? And that's the next question that I want Tai to start with. Tai, what's the balance? Somebody has just asked the question even in the comments. How do you find the balance?
Yeah, for me, I am trying to weed violence as a discipline out of my children's vocabulary. And I think that that's
Right.
been a generational thing. And even science backs up the negativity behind that. And it's a process, but I've kind of drawn the line where this stops with me, where my children learn that violence is not discipline. It's just not in my book. Um, and so I'm trying to change that narrative with my kids, and that's where my balance goes. It goes up to violence. Um,
Mm-hmm,
there can be physical restraint. There can be, physical consequences of sit here, or, you made the mess, you clean it, or you don't get to sleep, or whatever the issue is. I don't mind physical consequences, but violence is where I draw the line, and that's where my balance comes in.
mm-hmm,
And then after that, it's just individual on the children. So one of my children needs hugs as they are being disciplined. They literally need physical love in the process of being disciplined. One of my other children, absolutely not. There will be a confused message there if I do that with that child. And so that's where the balance comes in. I think for me is just really learning my children as they grow and mature.
mm-hmm.
And it changes daily almost with these
Hmm.
children. So
Hmm.
that's where I find my balance.
Right. Someone has just asked in the comment. I would just see if I could put up her comment. It's pretty all right. So it says, I'm definitely doing too much because my 2 year old simply won't eat. If if you visit while she eats, you think I'm a colonel in the army, fufu stick, belt, cooking spoon, and I don't hit her with those, but the fear makes her eat. If anybody wants to correct, just come get my kid and feed her. That is as real as it can get, right? But I know this, lady. She's my friend, and she has a 2 year old. How do you talk about consequences to a 2 year old when you simply, from a mama's heart, just want the child to eat? So, when we talk about, I wouldn't use violence, I get that for a child that can process what that is. But a child that does not have the understanding, maybe you can tell me, how did you get your children to eat without the fufu stick, the belt, or the cooking spoon? We need you have something to share.
I have a friend whose son never ate. He's now no, he's now 3, but from the minute she weaned him off breast milk, he did not eat. And it's just of recent when he started going to daycare where he could sit down with other kids, and if he sees his friend eating broccoli, he'll try broccoli. But those were things that, I mean, down to the basics like rice, he just did not eat. But what she did was she looked for, because I believe there's always one thing that a child will like, something healthy, not candy, please. I'm not talking about candy or chocolates or all of that. But there are some healthy things that I believe every child will like, even if it's just one. So she started with that, and then she slowly moved on to other things, like she could just add a spoon of rice, but she never force fed him. She did not. She really took her time, and slowly he's getting out of it, he's trying new things. So I just feel like if you force a kid, they will not, because these children, they are angels, but they have a mind of their own. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where they are from,
But
but
Winnie,
they really
I
have.
beg to differ right there because, and I'm gonna differ, and I'm open to what everybody else when you has to say, and even in the comments, I go through the same thing with my children, and I'm as a mom, I'm thinking this child needs to eat for strength. So when I'm putting the food in his mouth and he doesn't want it, I catch it and I put it in. You cannot judge me. I'm being real. That's what I do.
Nobody's judging, nobody's judging.
He has to eat. These are real things that we're talking about. I feel like, yeah, sometimes as a parent, there are decisions you make on behalf of this human being who has a mind on his own that does not know that if he doesn't eat, he cannot have the strength to play. And that I'm giving him good, healthy food.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's
I
not, you
have
want to feed
if
that.
I can interject, I have
Oh,
a
sorry, sorry.
perspective too on that,
Yeah.
where I don't force my children to eat either. And I realize that it's a developmental stage. Every child will go through some type of development with their food, whatever it will be. And I want ultimately my children to have a healthy relationship with food and nutrition. And then when I take a step back, is my child really going to die because they will not eat? And the answer is they probably will not. I mean, if I'm truthfully looking at it, what it is more I had to take a step back because I had a child that struggled with food, and it was a power struggle on my end. I
Hmm.
was feeling upset that my child would not eat what I presented to them. And I had to just step back. Can I give them a smoothie that has every nutrition that they need and they will survive and thrive and they will live? Yes, I can. And so I had to reframe my frame of mind, which then stopped the struggle so that when they were old enough to then have those more, dialogue conversations of this is healthy food choices, then I could do that. That helped me. I mean, that of course that doesn't work in everyone's lifestyle, but that helped me with the food struggles. Just
Hmm.
stepping back and saying, as a mother, will my child actually die if they do not eat this? No, they
Hmm.
won't.
Hmm. Hey, Denise, you look like you had something to say about that experience.
Well, for me, it's just following instructions. I really don't have much to say. If the mom says, this is what is available for the child to eat, I try my best. Like, I literally dance and distract them. Like my little cousin, when he was about a year old, oh my goodness, you can't do nothing. They need to call me wherever. If I was sleeping, if they want him to eat, they need to call me because the mom says, I don't even know how you do this, but just do your magic. So since I love to sing, I love kids a lot. Like I play with them, even the hardest kids. As long as you don't run away from me or you're scared of people or something, you're gonna have the time of your life. Maybe because I'm not doing this motherhood thing full time.
Yeah.
You know, it gets tiring when you're doing it every day and you ask yourself, for how long am I going to be singing for you to eat? You know, that exhaustion comes in. But in my case, I'm not that full time mom. So every time I'm there, I just want to make it memorable for the child. And
Mm-hmm.
if it means me dancing, singing, distracting them, you know, tell them, look at something up there, and I just put the food in your mouth and you eat because I really don't want to hear you cry. I don't want to hear you cry. It's so irritating. I can lose my mind. So I'd rather just sing through it or do whatever works for that specific child
Right.
because I can easily get away with it because I don't stay with you all day. I
Yeah.
don't do it like I'm not the mom, you know. When the mom can easily lose it. Like you're going to the bathroom, the child is with you, you want to take a nap. Of course, you can be singing for the child to
Right.
eat. So it's not done for a full-time practical mom, but I can do it because I don't do it like consistently.
Right. And yeah, thank you all for sharing on that. I wanted us to move on onto another topic and to close this one by saying there's always resources available for your particular struggle. So even if you're going through a difficulty with getting your child to eat, there are many things that could you could try here and there, hear what other moms are doing. Denise shared a very good point. She dances, she says look up, and then she puts the foot in. I just doesn't worry about it, because she realized it was coming from a place of worry. Winnie, I don't remember exactly what was your take on it. If you can just share that in 5 seconds.
No, I was with Tai on it's a developmental process. They will get over
Yeah.
it. They will as they grow through it. Yeah.
Right. I use TV. I put their favorite show when it's on and they're not focusing on what's going on and just opening their mouth. It used to be Johnny, yes, Papa. When he says ha ha ha, the food goes in.
That's
That's
cute.
a good one.
So let's move on to the next question about discipline, which I have seen as one of the reasons why families break apart when the spouses don't agree on discipline approach. If you are the one that feels that your husband is disciplining too much, that can bring friction, quite honestly.
Right.
How are you? Have you ever faced this? And let's just think back because I want us to talk about ourselves. I don't want us to talk about theory. When in your life did you experience where you and your partner were not on the same page about discipline? What was it and how did you approach it? Ty, you can go first. I know you have a
Okay.
ready answer.
Yeah. Me and my children's father are definitely not on the same page with discipline. And it's mostly stemmed from how we both grew up and also what our goals are for our children. And so it's been a lot of conversations, honestly, and just eventually coming to the fact that you might, I'm the one who knows more. We'll say that I have more experience with children, both practical experience and, experience just through reading and listening to people, and I just have more connections in that. So it was basically we came to an agreement how it's going to be in our family and how our children were going to be raised. And it still brings up some issues every once in a while. There may be an incident where it's stop and let's deal with this, because we're not on the same page. But it was one person just giving the other person the lead on that because there wasn't an agreement, and there probably will never be an agreement. But we've agreed to disagree on that.
So what if
Essentially.
he did not want you to take the lead? What were you going to do if he said, well, I know better. You think you know, but I know because I was raised this way. And voila, look at me. I came out good. What if he did not agree with you taking the lead? What were
Um,
you going to do?
yeah, that's a good question. I think as long as it did not cross my line, where I feel that violence is not something that's a generational habit or practice that will not cross the line of my children, I would do what I needed to do to protect my children. Thankfully, we're both on the same page as far as um, being flexible with that. But as long as it did not cross that line, I think I would have some type of leniency to allow some of his practices in. But there's a certain line where I feel as a parent, I'm my children's first defense. And I feel that this is what's best for their life as a whole, not just right now, but their future, of not allowing violence to be a disciplinary measure. And I'm really adamant about that. And so if it
Mm-hmm,
had come to that, we would be having a whole different conversation.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Winnie, do you feel like when your husband is disciplining your children, you have to pinch yourself, close your ears, go and hide because you cannot stand it? Or are you on the same page?
Um, Sometimes I'm not on the same page with him, but more often than not, I can say I'm on the same page. But the thing is, I spend 24 hours, 365 days with my kids. I'm a stay at home mom. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always with them. So I'm the parent who always loses her mind and wants to jump over the balcony because I've had enough. So I'm always yelling, shamefully but true. I'm always yelling. I'm always yelling because my kids are always on me. And I believe that when I'm sleeping, they are calling me. Even in my dream, I can hear them calling me.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when my cup is full, I just send them to my husband, and I tell him, "You're going to stay with these kids. I'm going out for a walk. I can't do this anymore." And then I go out for a walk. I cool off. But when I see him shout at the kids, I get scared. It's
Mm-hmm.
something I do all the time. But when
Yes,
I see him shout at them, I have to run to him, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, just calm down now. It's okay." But it's something I do.
yes.
For some reason, I'm always scared when he has that urge to discipline them, if I can say
Yes.
so, or to correct them for something. Because to me, I'm scared. As a mom, we
Yeah.
have our ways. There's a way we'll do it, which we may not really hurt them. But I'm thinking
Right.
as a man, oh, you may just hurt this child. And
Right.
yeah, sometimes I have that urge to stop him. But again, I don't want to do that in front of the kids, because when you show your kids that both of you are not on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to create an environment where your kid disrespects you because he or she thinks you're the lenient parent, and then the fear the other parent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I always do that in a way that the kids don't notice I'm trying to get into the situation. Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's a learning moment right there for us. And it is the truth. As a mom, we will always feel like we know the best for our children. We yell, or sometimes pop. But when somebody else tries to do the same, we think oh my goodness, you're about to kill my child. But I see Ty nodding. I'm going to get back to her to share her own experience. But I feel like, it's important for children. If we're not on the same page, and trust me, teaching moment for myself, because I'm the same way. The moment my husband tries to do exactly what I just did, I'm right there, like, okay, what happened? I'm almost like a mediator, like, who called you here? But I'm, I get there. And so it's a teaching moment for us to be on the same page, for the mere fact that we don't want to give the impression that one parent does not love them any more than the other. So thank you so much. Denise, what do you have to say about where, you have
Oh
seen,
Lord.
and just tell me, like, what has it been? you raising, what have you seen that you could talk about when parents are not on the same page?
Well, I'll talk about when I'm not on the same page with the parents, first
Mm,
of all, because um, the fact that you stay with the kids and you're loving on the kids, you're trying to discipline the kids, don't mean you don't want their affection as well.
mm-hmm,
But sometimes parents are tempted to just leave it to you. You're the big bad wolf, just do the disciplining and all that. And every time the child is going off course, they're like, oh, don't go off course because auntie is gonna discipline you, pushing
mm-hmm,
it all on me. It makes me feel a little bit like, oh, so the child is gonna look at me like I'm doing something wrong,
mm-hmm,
like I'm the one who is all stern and is not loving enough. I also need that baby's hug. I need the baby to confide in me, though I'm showing them discipline. And when it comes to parents not agreeing, most times I see a situation where the father is more lenient and the mom is trying to set some ground rules, like if you're hungry, you need to take the food yourself and put it in your mouth, and trying to train the children to be independent. And then the dad just walks in, takes the spoon, and starts feeding the child. Like, what else can you do in that situation but to tell him, like, let him eat on his own? It got to a stage where the child won't even eat if he doesn't see his father, because he feels y'all are not treating him nice and his father is the only one who truly loves him. Yeah,
mm,
I feel like that's what goes on in their head sometimes. Like the
right.
mother is the harsh one, daddy treats me right, he feeds me. But the
Mm-hmm,
mom is just trying to make you as independent as possible. You can't really blame the child because they're still at a developmental stage and they don't really understand the importance of being independent. But if
mm-hmm,
one partner is really that soft, then it's really frustrating because you, as that partner, as that soft partner, it shows that you don't even have an understanding of where you're taking
mm-hmm,
this child. When you look at your child, what do you want them to achieve in the shortest possible time? Do you want them to be
mm-hmm,
to die of starvation when you're not around? Do you want them to be able to make a sandwich for themselves? Just look at that picture, and it's going to help you a lot to be able to discipline them. Like, this is the goal.
mm-hmm,
I want you to achieve this. If I'm not here today, you can make a sandwich for yourself. You can cut
mm-hmm,
open a banana for yourself. So I feel
mm-hmm,
parents don't look at the picture when they look at their kids and they want to discipline them. It's not just
right.
about mm, creating that impression that I'm the parent and I'm in charge and whatever I tell you is what you do, but just having that picture that this is what I want this child to become, so I'm not gonna let up. It's gonna hurt the child a little bit sometimes. That's because they lack understanding. But in the
Mm-hmm,
long run, they're definitely gonna thank me for that. I was raised by my grandmother. Trust me, they say grandmothers pamper. My grandmother will give you a good whooping. Like, she's gonna
mm-hmm,
whoop you and buy you a candy the next minute. And you know from there that that is not done. You can't
mm-hmm,
do that. Yeah. And she
mm-hmm,
still loves you and you're still gonna find a way to run to her
mm-hmm.
when you need security as a child. So I
Right,
feel
right.
children know, really, they really do know who loves them and who doesn't. So your discipline doesn't affect the love of a child for you. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I got to understand.
And
Because no matter how you whoop them, they're still gonna come back to you if you do it
that
in love.
that's a very important part because behind the lack of discipline or the over discipline is fear.
Right.
It's that four-letter monster called fear.
Yeah, yeah.
And whether or not, people don't want to discipline because they're afraid the child will hate them, the child won't love them, or they over discipline because if they don't do it, the child will be a thief. Ty, I wanted you to comment on what Winnie said, where she says she always feels like she can do it. She knows them best. You made the same statement that you are, your children, best. What do you do when your husband is in charge? And are you like pinching yourself or keeping away, or do you step in to save the day? What's that situation like for in
Um,
your household?
yeah, so I have my our dynamic is that I always tell my husband that he was raised by wolves. his family literally just birthed him and let him do what he wanted. So he's on the very lenient side. And he if he is in charge of my children. So I'm going through a divorce right now. So we have two separate households. And so when he is with the children, because I'm the custodial parent, I have very strict rules of what goes on and what happens. So even before, when we were a one household family, that was the rule. It's mama's rule. And so that's kind of, I think because he's so lenient with his discipline and his just, that has been his lifestyle. I think he's understanding that. And I think as he gets older, also, he's realizing that some of the problems in his own life have stemmed from a lack of discipline in growing up. And he realizes he does not want his children to go through that. So he may not know what to do to prevent it, but I think he's realizing that there's something else to be done than his way.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't step in very frequently because we've kind of established a baseline of this is how it's best to be done. And
Mm-hmm.
unless I feel my child is being irreparably harmed, I usually will have learned to step away unless I feel like
Okay.
this again, that there's irreparable harm that's going to be happening.
Right, right. We have about 8 minutes left, and I want anybody who's watching us to drop your questions because this is time for us. We'll wrap up very soon, but we want to give it a few minutes to just ask a question and let anybody on the panel tell you what their approach was. As the questions are coming in, let me share on this that I just had this thought about how we can all come together as not we all, but you and your spouse or you and your partner and decide that at this phase that we're in with our children, let this be our strategy. Before now, I don't think parents have been that intentional about agreeing on what a strategy is from time to time. That agreement, I believe, is so important because we parent from how we were parented, either good or bad. If I came from a family where there was too much yelling, every time my husband yells, it triggers something inside of me. Meanwhile, maybe the yelling on his own part, he feels like this is what is needed for these children. But we have to be able to sit down and say, this is what yelling does to me. And every time you yell, I'm going to interject, not because you're killing my child, but because I feel like something
It's
that
a
I did
reflex.
not like is being done to my children. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it is important for parents, immigrant parents, to set up time and just agree. Let's just talk about what we're about to do. Let's just, decide. So let me throw this question back to our panelists. Like, what do you think from your background is a trigger that you see, maybe when your partner is disciplining or you are disciplining, that makes you either want to interject, and how are you handling that?
I'll go first.
Sure.
Well, in my perspective, right? Like I don't have kids yet and all that. But growing up as a child, I know exactly what didn't work for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if anyone remembers what didn't work for them. It doesn't work for me because I grew up taking instructions. I wasn't a recalcitrant child. I was obedient. It's yes and amen. When they say do this, it's okay. You don't even have to wear a frown. So I didn't get to share what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very particular when you start to discipline a child by yelling because you're shutting that child out. And when they become teenagers, they become total strangers. In my case, that was it. Like if you cover faces and ask my parents to pick me out, they would not. If you use character, because they don't know my character. I practically just shut down, deal with my problems till this moment I'm speaking with you. My father he tries like, oh, baby girl, what's going on your mind and stuff. But trust me, it takes me a while to tell him. My mom, she's not going to ask you. She's just who she is, and that's it. And it happened a long time ago. Every time you create an environment that is not approachable for a child, they go further away from you. So dialogue to me, no matter how young that child is, dialogue works because I've done it with my cousins. They feel comfortable coming to me and saying, you know what, this is how I feel. I have a cousin he's a preteen, but he comes to me and tells me stuff. His mom is just gonna give him a good whooping. But he comes to me and I'm like, what do you really want? What is the reason for your actions? How do you feel about how stuff are being handled around here? And I think if that was done for me, then I'll be understood, because understanding is very important. Some parents be like, oh, when their children are teenagers, they're like, I don't understand these teenagers. That's because you were not approachable from day one.
Mhm.
You let them go out there and talk to strangers and feel the warmth on the outside. War besides you if they land in the wrong hands and they learn the wrong things. But if you start talking to your children early enough, look, these children understand. 3 years old, they understand you. Just keep doing the talking. And it's going to apply on a day that is really needed. As they grow
Right,
older, they're going to remember, because I still
right.
remember some of the things my grandmother would teach me, tell me when I was growing up. My grandmother is the one who taught me the dialogue, because growing up
Mm.
as a teenager,
The
I had to
importance of
compare
dialogue.
my, yeah, I had to compare my parents' parenting and my grandmother's parenting, because I'll
Right,
normally just visit my parents, but I spend more time with my grandma. And
right.
she'll, even when she's applying lotion on me, she'll be talking to me. She'll be like, you know what? This shouldn't be your worry. Life is like this, life is like that. And I believe in the course of that, she instilled a wisdom in me that just comes like flashes of memory. Right now that I'm a grown woman and I have my own struggles, trust me, I still remember those things. So you need to
Oh,
decide what
thank
you
you so
really
much
want
for
to do.
sharing. Yes, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a message we're passing across here, that even if we differ on how we're going to discipline our kids, one thing we should all agree on: establishing a line of communication with
Mhm.
them.
Right.
Hi, what from your past has influenced the way you discipline right now that you could share with us?
Yeah, the same as just as Denise said, just communication, keeping those lines of communication open has been so important. And the thing that I learned not to do from my parents most more than anything is to show a vulnerability. I think
Mhm.
my parents were very big on, being authoritarian and thinking that if they let that go, that there would be some loss of respect or some loss of control. I'm learning, and I've learned that showing some vulnerability and saying, I'm sorry, I messed up. And actually making that a habit to tell my children, I went overboard with this, or I didn't listen to you enough and I got the scenario wrong and I punished you instead of your sister. And me voicing that, as much as it irks me to have to say that, to my child that's 3, I'm so sorry I did this wrong to you. But I think that's forming a relationship that I want to continue and I want my children to see in me. And I don't think there's any loss of respect there. I don't think it
Mhm.
loses any
Mhm.
respect
Right.
or anything. And that's been a
Mhm.
process for me, because I'm undoing some of the generational things that have come through. And that's really my biggest thing, is letting my children see when I make a mistake, especially in disciplining them, and still saying, you still needed to be disciplined. You were still wrong, but I
Mhm.
also did this wrong. My reaction was wrong.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you, Winnie. What's yours? Your mom
My
never hit you,
mom,
so I'm curious to hear what is it about your.
my mom my best friend. She is she's so special to me. I can't even explain. Um, my relationship with my mom. Okay, I grew up with my mom. I didn't grow up with my dad. Yeah, I grew up with a single parent, and she okay, I slept in her bed till university. I had to tell her, okay, I'm leaving your bed right now. I cannot continue sleeping with you in this bed. And we share stories every night before we go to sleep. We share stories. I mean, to the extent of I knew the men who were interested in her. That's how we used to communicate. And sometimes it was too much for me. I mean, yeah, when
Mhm.
she starts asking me things about my boyfriends, then I'll have to stop her. But I just want a little of that with my daughter, especially. Just a little
Mhm.
of that. And if you ask me, I cannot really tell you how she did it, because at the same time, she yelled at me. I mean, there were times when she will yell at me and I will wish that she could just beat me, because she will yell at me when I did wrong. And then when she sees me in the evening, she brings it up again. When we wake up the next morning, when I tell her good morning, she will say something like, mm-hmm, and then she brings it up
Ah,
again. In my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe you feel better if you just beat me. Please beat me, let's move on. You know, but then I think, I don't know if I made it easier for her in that I was an obedient kid and I understood that she was my mom and my dad. So from an early age, and the fact that she could also communicate with me her feelings, how she felt, how difficult things were without my dad being around. I think from a very young age it made me understand certain things, and I was more considerate with her. And that is just what I want for my kids. I feel
Yes.
like I yell at my kids more than my mom ever yelled at me, and sometimes it makes me feel bad. But I mean, I don't feel bad anymore. I don't feel bad anymore because the yelling doesn't work for them. When I yell at them now, they repeat what I said.
oh,
If I say, DeAndre, you have to stop this right now, he'll be like, Mommy, you have to stop this right now. So it doesn't work anymore. I'm still trying to to figure out
Yeah.
something else. But yeah, what I'm saying is I just want to have just a little percentage of the relationship I have with my mom, with my
Hmm.
kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me sum this up. And it's just, I like for us to have discussions like this, because in everything that we talk about, wisdom is coming from the different stories that you're sharing. And one thing that has just stood out to me right now, which is a parent strategy that I dare you to use, is to teach your children how to be considerate, even of you, how to be
right,
considerate of the people in school, the boss teacher. Because now that I think about it, a strategy that my mom especially used was teaching us to be considerate of her. You cannot teach a child to be considerate if you're not willing to be vulnerable. You cannot be willing to be vulnerable and teach how to be considerate without communication. So it's a string of
right,
events. You have to communicate, you have to be vulnerable, and you have to teach them how to be considerate of you. And then they see you as a human being. They don't see their parent as a God who cannot fail, who has no mistake. As young as your children are, it's okay to say, Mom is having a bad day. I need you to just be quiet so I could have some peace. That same sentence could be a, why are you doing all of that yelling spree? And yes, of course, you're having a bad day, but you're communicating it differently than saying, hey, mommy had a bad day and she's not in the mood for what you're trying to do. And once we build that up, I believe that it's going to make a difference in the children that we have. So if I
right.
am taking anything out of this roundtable today, is to be intentional about teaching our kids to be considerate of our struggles as parents. Let's see our comments before we wrap up. This was a good one. We're 5 minutes over. But wow, Denise, thanks for sharing. I want my daughter to be my best friend. Guys, please, this is the time to drop any of your comments. So thanks to our guests who have shared from their hearts for us. And Dolly here is talking about having patience with her toddler. She loses her cool easily. I hope my daughter knows I love her so much. I think she does. She does. You wouldn't have to worry about that. You're doing a great job. Omotia says, yeah, as parents, not always on the same page, but you have to be careful not to allow kids to notice the lenient one. But mother yelling and disciplining is done carefully. That father part, we need a father roundtable. Who would agree with me? I feel like we need to bring our immigrant dads on here. Like, you guys, let's gather. So if you know any immigrant dad who is doing a perfect job or a good job with their children that you'd like to recommend, please let us know. Dolly here again says, Denise, Definitely need to send my kids to Denise. I don't have the patience to sing and dance. And there's some more comments. Let's see. There was a comment here from Salma. Salma says the strategy for curbing negative behavior erupting is the God theory. I teach them about God and values and make sure they're comfortable telling the truth. I let them know that I not only love a good result, I love the process and will love them irrespective of the result. That's a good tip right there for you, Ty, as you can incorporate that in teaching him those values and teaching him to be comfortable to tell the truth. Minerva here says the Bible says spare the rod and spoil the child. Most of us were raised with much spanking and we turned out okay. But in America, it's different. I'll differ on that. Not everybody turned out okay. There are a lot
Me
of
too.
people with childhood
Yeah.
issues. There are a lot of people, they look okay, but they're not okay. For you to know that a person is not okay, you need to put them in a situation where there's a trigger and you will know that they are not okay. So not everybody turned okay. We learned that the culture promotes communication as a means of discipline and spanking is abusive. I believe there should be a balance of both depending on the scenario. Definitely. When we're talking about balance, just institute what we talked about here: communication, vulnerability, and being considerate. Whatever you use that framework. Someone else here says, I love Ty's answer to the discipline question. Very appropriate. Communication is key. My question, however, is in this peculiar environment where we are in the US, where confidence is instilled in school and everywhere, I see children, I mean little children less than 10, questioning their parents' orders in the name of being confident. How do you help manage the difference between arrogance, being rude, and confidence? I have a teenager and a preteen, and I still raise them. Is that a question someone can answer? I know we're a little over time, but this is a critical question. How do you manage the difference between arrogance, being rude, and confident?
I could say really quickly from my perspective is I keep in mind that I am raising little humans. And so I don't, they're not going to be children and not for very long. And so allowing them to voice their questions and their concerns, but doing it in an age appropriate manner. So I reinforce, I do want to hear from you. I want to hear your opinion, but I want to hear it respectfully. And that's
Mhm.
again, just communication. So I allow my children to what some people may consider talk back. They're allowed to voice that, but they must do it in appropriate time, an appropriate tone of voice,
Right,
and using the correct words. So yeah,
right.
that's how I do my with my children.
And to add, I think that we can call it out when it's disrespectful. Now ask
Right.
yourself, is your children questioning you? Do you find that disrespectful? Then you would have to change your mindset of what is disrespectful, because a question is not necessarily disrespectful. Even if they question why you are doing what you're doing, check their tone. But if it's just a question, you want to keep it open, because that's communication, right? When we talk about communication, what is it? Their ability to talk to us about what they feel about what we have told them. So I guess that's it. We could go on and on. If you would like for us to continue on this discussion, please join the Immigrant Mom group. We're always talking about this. We have just an hour to come on here on our round table and go over this. So please join the group for us to keep on with this discussion, to be open about what you're facing. My sister, Prophetess Vanley here says, I think we need to allow our kids to make mistakes. We make mistakes as adults all the time and learn from it. Why not our kids? Very important. And Erica says, wow, I learned so much. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We'll do this again on another topic. We'll talk about something else. And thank you so much for joining us. Guys, have a great weekend. And this coming Thursday, we'll have a guest on the Immigrant Mom Show. Have a good one.